Welcome to the Black Knight Nation podcast. I'm Sal Interdonado. The Black Knight Nation podcast is sponsored by Higher Echelon. Higher Echelon is a world-class consulting firm that trains employees in sports psychology secrets that drastically improve work performance. Higher Echelon's founder is Dr. Joe Ross, who is a retired Army. He's a former Army fullback, a former Army assistant coach, and Higher Echelon helps organizations shave hundreds of hours off work time and save and make more money by walking them through technology transformations. We thank Higher Echelon for sponsoring this podcast. And tonight we're happy to welcome in former Army quarterback Joe Gerena to the Black Knight Nation podcast. Joe, thanks for joining us.
I appreciate it, Sal. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I mean, we've been in contact for a little bit here, and I just wanted to get you on to talk about your Army career as a football player, life after West Point, and now I guess you're back in it, Joe, with your son Brett being a freshman right now at Beast Barracks freshman boot camp. So, wow, a lot of things to talk to you about. First of all, just what maybe just get a feeling what it was like on our day a few weeks back, and I don't know if that brought up past experiences with yourself, or what was that like when you were dropped Brett off?
You know, it was definitely surreal going through the gates at their gates and pulling through, and obviously with COVID and the precautions that are in place, it was a little bit different from my time there and what we were able to do. But it was, like I said, it was surreal in the sense that pulling through. You get some goosebumps, get some butterflies, knowing, the trials and tribulations that were part of the West Point experience. But to see and quote unquote deliver my son there was just a chance in a lifetime, and it's always been his dream to go there and attend West Point, whether it was playing football, which was obviously his goal, but he wanted to go there from the time he was just a young boy. He for Christmas he wanted old war movies to watch on DVD and always wanted Army birthday parties and things of that nature, and would always come into my office and look at the memorabilia and the pictures and everything associated with my time at West Point or in the Army. So it was special for sure, and it made it easy for me because I knew that's where he wanted to be. I knew that he understood that it was going to be hard. It was going to be some trials and tribulations, along the way, but he's been talking for the last 2 years about, branching infantry and going 75th Ranger Regiment or, being a part of the 101st. So this is what he wants to do, and it made it easy. Didn't make it any easier on Mom, but, knowing, her and I being together while we went through West Point made it easier for her, a little bit easier for her. But, it was definitely a little hard for her to send her firstborn off and not be able to talk or communicate with him for the amount of time that she's had.
Yeah, you said that tonight was the first time you got to talk to him since he's been at Beast Barracks, right? And what was that like for you guys?
It was great. We had the Corps has, right? That's the famous saying. They put out on social media that the new cadets were going to get their phones today, and they're going to have from 1 to 5 o'clock to make calls home, things of that nature, spend time with their sponsors and things such like that. He was actually up at the facility and was able to call home right after 1 o'clock. So as soon as he got his phone charged, I think he was able to make that call home. And it was great to, I was sitting out on the patio and the phone rang and FaceTime coming through, and I'm yelling across the house to my wife, to come over and, make sure you're here to answer the call. I didn't want to answer until she was standing there next to me. So, we sat at the kitchen table and was able to talk to him and see his face. And it was definitely nice to see, and I kept looking over at her, and I could see kind of the tears of joy coming from her eyes as she tried to hold him back while she was talking to him. But to see him, I mean, they've done a great job. I think getting him and the other football players through Beast without potentially losing too much weight. I think he reported out there he was like 224. I think he's about 225. He said right now. So the heavy tables and the things that they're doing with the training of Beast and everything is he's been able to keep the weight and it's funny because I told him, I was probably one of the few people that actually went through Beast and actually gained weight going through the Beast. I gained 15 pounds going through Beast. So it was, I used to love eating at the heavy tables, and the cadre wouldn't let us leave till all that extra food was gone off the table. And I love breakfast, so I had no problem eating my 5 shares of eggs and bacon and sausage and pancakes and things of that nature. So I was able to go from 175 to just under 200 the time I left B. So I told him about that, and all the coaches, when he reported up there, stressed the importance of eating and things of that nature. I've seen from his letters, he's like, the food from the food is really good here in the mess hall, and the only thing he doesn't quite like is having to stare at the crust while he eats. So he's come up with some tricks to look into his spoon to look down and use it as a mirror and things of that nature. So, but it was great to spend 10, 15 minutes talking to him, seeing him on FaceTime, and again, I mean, so much has changed over the years with technology and that aspect of it, from trying to get a spot on the payphone and hoping that you can get a collect call home, to now, being able to see his face when you're talking to him, and him able to, turn the camera around and show us his equipment, his locker, things of that nature. It was great, and I was good with it. I mean, it was good to talk to him and things of that nature, but it was definitely nice for his mom to get that face-to-face time. And he showed no signs of any type of homesickness or things of that nature. He was just excited to get to the next 12 and a butt days to start football practice and get into the academic year. And he's sent me his he wrote out his academic schedule already, and he's so excited about getting into that. So it was just all good today, and to have that opportunity to spend with him, and even though it was only 5-10 minutes or so, to see him and see that he's in great spirits confirms the decision he made with everything, for sure.
Yeah, I think sometimes we take things for granted, right? And we take those, the times we spend with our families, that family time sometimes can be, but when you get a call from him for 5 to 10 minutes just to chat, and it seems like I was going to ask you about any advice you might have given him, but maybe he's kind of learning some things on his own too, right? I mean, it seems like he's kind of adapting on his own, so to speak, too, which has got to be great to see as a parent, right?
Yeah, the only advice I really gave him, outside of what he learned himself about West Point, was to go to the prep school. I myself stubbornly said that I wanted to be a direct admit, and initially they wanted me to go to the prep school, and I wanted to go direct. And like I said, I gained 15 pounds in Beast. I was, went from 170 pounds to 190, 95 pounds, by the end of the first year, by the end of the first semester. And, January of my plebe year, I was at 205. So, just matured and grew and so I wanted him to take kind of advantage of that, aspect of the prep school, and having the prep school on campus and learning and understanding, what they're able to do with the prep school now, again, being on campus and how they're able to train and the dedication and the resources that have gone into the prep school. I really wanted him to go that route, and it worked out that's the route they wanted him to go anyways. And that was really the only direction I gave him. Other than that, I wanted him to make his own decision. With where he wanted to go to school. He had a bunch of different offers. 10, Mac, and other schools around the country, and but West Point is where he wanted to be, and that's where he knew he wanted to go.
Yeah, I was just doing some research for the podcast and saw that you guys made some trips to some Big Ten schools, right? Just to check them out, just to see what the interest level was, and maybe check out the facilities and the program and the campuses. So I mean, there were options there for him, and like you said, for growing up and wanting to go to West Point, that has to that was the ultimate decision for him. And for now to transition a little bit, talk to us a little bit about how you got to West Point, like how you were recruited and how you ended up at West Point.
My, obviously, back in the day, recruiting was a totally different animal than it is today. With social media and unfortunately, I've been a high school coach for the past 8 years now, and seeing it firsthand. It's never. You got to step back and actually say, okay, what is truly a committable offer? And you're, okay, so-and-so college, if you look them up, they've got, 252 offers out there. Well, the realities of the situation is they can only take X number of commitments per year. So what is a committable offer? If I was to commit right now, would you accept my offer or my commitment and lock it in? And, so we took some time. We did to go around to visit some of the different schools. I knew he was a good player. He was getting recruited by, getting some interest from some Big Ten schools and things of that nature. And we took the trip around the MAC, in that Midwest area to see some different schools. But every time we walked away, it was like, he would just sit there and say, nothing compares to West Point. It didn't matter if it was Indiana, Michigan, Purdue, Ohio State, didn't matter. Nothing compared to West Point in his mind. And so what I told him, I said, he goes, I want to commit to West Point. I said, you're not committing until, academically you're cleared to get in, because once you commit, it's done. It's done. So I kind of dangled that carrot in front of him to say, okay, you want this. This is something you want to achieve. Here, that's your goal. Well, what are you going to go do to achieve it? And he was able to get the SAT scores, and the high school that he went to was never a question as far as preparing him. It was a very stringent high school. No concerns about coming from the high school level to West Point or to the prep school, and knowing how to study or how to prepare himself, things of that nature. It was just making sure that he had his I's dotted and T's crossed. And as soon as he got that test score back from his SAT, and we checked with the coaches, made sure everything was good. He goes, I want to commit. I said, all right, go ahead and commit. You're done. We're done. No more trips, no more communication with anybody. This is it. He goes, no problem. I'm done. And I can remember sitting at the dinner table, calling John Luce and Tucker Waugh and Dixon and those guys, and just, him saying, and just seeing the joy in his eyes and his facial expressions that I'm committed, I'm good to go, and we're ready to go, because it wasn't just 3 months before that we were up there visiting West Point and sitting with Coach Munkin, and Brett was excited and basically talking like he was going to commit, and Coach Monken said, "Are you committing? You're good to go? You locked in?" And I said, "Whoa." I said, "Coach, he ain't committing until he gets everything done, and then that's stuff that he's got to get done to be able to commit." And he's, Coach was very appreciative of that and understood it. And we walked out of his office, and Tucker and Dixon and a couple other coaches, VD and some of the other coaches were standing there. They were expecting us to walk out committed. I said, "Guys, slow down." I said, "He's got to take care of his stuff." But so when he was actually able to commit and put it all behind him, it was a weight off his shoulders and a great achievement. Because it was work, and getting into West Point is not easy, and as every one of my brothers can attest to, it's not easy. So to get to that point and be able to commit to the school and lock yourself in, it was a great achievement for him, for sure.
No doubt. Can you take us back to how you were recruited and to how you? I mean, was it something where you were in the offices? I guess it was Bob Sutton at that time, right? I mean, is that something? Can you go back to when you were in his office and he was asking you, "Are you ready or not?" or your visit and stuff like that? Or
that was a fun time. I mean, that was like I said, everything has changed, over the course of the years. But so my senior year, the AFCA Coaches Convention was located in Orlando, Florida that year, and my head coach took my highlight VHS tape to the Orlando convention, and basically found Greg Gregory at the time, and said, "I got a quarterback for you. You got to watch him." And he did. He goes, "Oh, just give me the tape and we'll watch him." He's like, "No, I want to watch it with you," and so he actually they got a room and they put the VHS tape in and watched my highlight film and said that they wanted to bring me up on a visit and basically offer me. My grades were good, my test scores were all good enough to get in. So I got a phone call. Not a phone call. I got a page on my beeper from my mom. I think it was at the time, saying, "Hey, you need to go up to the high school and go out and fill out all this paperwork for West Point because they really like you, and they want you to come up on a visit next weekend." And this was a week before signing day, or 2 weeks before signing day. So AFCA happens right there at the beginning of January. So it was probably 3 weeks before signing day. So I went up to the high school, filled out all the paperwork they wanted me to fill out. We got the official visit schedule. We flew up there with my dad. I can remember getting off the airport or the airplane in Newark, New Jersey, and my dad, who's from Long Island, he's like, "Joe, when you get off here, we get out and we're walking through the terminal and stuff, make sure you walk with a purpose because things up here, they move a little bit faster than here and back home in Florida." I said, whatever, and we get off, and it was like everybody was on a track meet, by me. I told my dad, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, you weren't kidding. These guys are just smoking up and down the terminal trying to get places." So I was able to take my visit up there, and they again they knew I wanted to be a direct admit, and I sat down with my host. Actually, my host that week was Charlie Keene, who was a backup quarterback behind Ronnie Makeda, and Tony Bianchi, who was from Tampa. They were my host, and I can remember spending time with them. And then Sunday morning, sat down with Coach Sutton, and he slid over the acceptance and said that here's your acceptance if you want to commit. And I said, absolutely, let's go ahead and commit and let's do this. So it was
I previously committed to the Citadel, and actually signed my letter of intent, knowing that I would take a trip up to West Point, but because West Point didn't honor letters of intent, I knew that I could kind of renege and go back on that, the acceptance, because I wanted to play Division I ball. And as soon as I found out I got the acceptance from West Point, I went ahead and committed and signed it, and the rest is history for sure.
Yeah, I was looking at some of the, checking out some career highlights for you. And, I guess maybe I could just ask you first, maybe what are some of your most favorite memories of being an Army football player? And then maybe we could get into some maybe individual games and stuff. But what do you most remember about being an Army football player?
Well, it's definitely the brotherhood associated with it. I can remember being that first training camp after marching back from Lake Frederick, and we were every one of us were chafing, and we're walking around, and we can't put our legs together because we're so raw on the inside of our legs, and we're going through training camp, and I can remember getting food underneath the end zone where they had the food laid out for breakfast. Once the upperclassmen came back, and walking around like, all right, where am I going to sit? Where am I going to sit? I can remember Reno Faree, pulling the chair back and saying, "Sit down right here. You're going to sit down next to me." And that was my first interaction with the upperclassmen. And everybody talks about the brotherhood, and you don't really truly understand. You can't understand it unless you experience it. You can talk about it all you want, but the brotherhood of that whole of Army football is truly second to none, with everything around the world and the country, and there's just nothing that compares to it. And that was my first experience to it, and Reno and I to this day still keep in close contact. About it. As soon as my son committed to West Point, he was one of the first people I reached out to say, "Hey, check it out. He's committed." That deal. Even though he's at Syracuse and things like that. But between that, the brotherhood stuff. I can remember going down to Fort Rucker, Alabama for flight school, and Ben Kawika, who he was 96, so he was gone before I got there, but he was actually at Fort Rucker, Alabama for advanced course, and we just got together and created just built on a bond that was already unwritten, and to this day, I mean, I still reach out to him constantly. Just spoke with him just a couple of weeks ago, just to catch up with him, see how he's doing with everything. So that's the biggest memories of Army football. And I can remember that was the biggest thing, when I, got on social media, whether it was Facebook or Twitter. I don't remember what it was when my son committed. I was like, so proud, to welcome you to the brotherhood and be able to not only call you my son, but to call you my brother.
Yeah. I was going to ask you about that. Exactly. You read my mind, Joe, because I was going to ask you about that. I remember writing the story when Brett committed and talking to you about that, and you saying the same thing. That is just going to be incredible, because now your brothers of the Army Football Brotherhood are now going to be his brothers, and that those are guys that he's going to lean on a little bit. Even the guys maybe who graduated this year from Army, like a John Radigan or a JB Hunter, or those guys. Mm-hmm. Those guys are now his brothers. He might meet up with them in some military training down the road. So once it's all said and done, it's incredible. I guess your freshman year. Talk to us a little bit about your playing career. Now, I was the game I wanted to focus on a little bit was that '98 Army Navy game. But talk to us a little bit about the beginnings of, like you said, your freshman year. You're coming out of Beast Barracks, and you got to get your legs under you maybe a little bit, but then then saw the last 3 years of your football career, you're under center and you're making no doubt, making some plays there. So.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was interesting. And that first year was probably a whirlwind that you don't remember. You remember some key things about it, but not everything about it. But, my wife and I were actually talking about that this morning because, planning our travel to go watch them, go up and visit Brett and watch Army play and hopefully watch Brett play and contribute this year. We're going to go ahead and lock in all our travel to all the home games. I dressed for all the home games as a freshman. I dressed for Army Navy. I can remember, my it was like the 7th or 8th game of the year. We were playing Boston College at Boston College, and Johnny Goff was a starter, and Adam Thompson was the backup at that point in time, and Adam was kind of nursing a hamstring injury. So I knew I was, if Johnny was to go down, that I would probably, if not be in the game, Adam would go in, and I would probably be in the game right afterwards. So that definitely sticks out in my mind because I can vividly remember, it being so cold, and it was just above freezing. It was raining, and it was miserable, really. To be standing on the sidelines in that weather. I remember Dick Hall coming over at halftime, giving me new socks to put on, make sure that I was, ready if I had to go in. And, that was, I guess it's amazing because, soldiers in the field. I mean, there's not much better than putting on a nice fresh pair of socks when they're soaking wet, whether they're in your boots or in your cleats. But that was great. So that was definitely a whirlwind. I can remember, again, dressing out for all the games. I can remember the game against Marshall and Randy Moss, and everybody has those highlights, of Randy Moss and what a great player he was, and then going through and playing Navy, running out on the field and warming up against Navy in the Meadowlands was definitely something great. And then you roll into my sophomore year, and Johnny was going to be a senior that year, and I knew it was going to be a battle with him to for playing time, and he ultimately was a starter at the beginning of the season, but got a ton of playing time and was able to come in to some key situations and moments throughout the throughout the year, to have that time, and then that 98 Army Navy game was obviously nothing that's going to ever leave my mind. Being able to come in, I guess we can talk about that a little bit later, but then going into junior year, it was something that I knew that I needed to lead the offense, and we're going into Conference USA, and all the fun things, second year Conference USA, and we had some struggles, that first year, and we knew we had to make some adjustments, and that the game against Louisville, that Thursday night game against Louisville, was obviously something that was very, very unique, being the first weeknight game at West Point, and I remember them bringing in the lights because the lights at Mikey Stadium weren't compatible with TV viewing and things of that nature. So, watching Mike Wallace and do what he did that game, and I can still remember the fourth down play where I was able to find Brandon Rooney, squeaking underneath the coverage on a 4th down and 8 in overtime, in the first overtime, hitting him on that. There's all kinds of little things that we go about that I don't want to get into on the podcast. To come off on the sideline, and hear, hey, let's get this game. Let's lock this game up because I really got to pee. something like that. It just a bunch of fun stuff, and to see the core rush the field after that game was tremendous. And then obviously the senior year with the coaching change, it was a unique situation where going from the triple option to a I guess you can call it a spread offense. It was different in that aspect of it, but it was really just zone runs and quick passing games, some air raid concepts and things of that nature. The struggles associated with that year. I look back, would I like to see it gone differently? Absolutely would have liked to see it gone differently. But, I still, I still have my brothers at the end of the day. And that's truly what it's about. There's not a single college athlete. There's not a single college coach. There's not a single professional athlete that can sit there and say they won every game. And even though we all try to win them all, but there's not a single one out there that can sit there and say that they've won every game. Everybody's going to lose at some point in time on the athletic fields. We did what we needed to do. We would have liked a different outcome, over the course of the 4 years that we were there, but we definitely put the work in, and to see the fruits of our labor, the people that came before us, the time and the effort that they put in, the coaches that they put in, to see what they have now, how Coach Monken runs the program now, how they interact with the core now, was all built with what we did and what the people did before us. It was an evolution. And we're all doing the same thing. That's why, somebody that graduates, John Radian graduates this year, I can reach out to him and we can pick up the phone and call and talk to each other like we know each other. And I've never met him. And, that's why we are who we are. And that's why it's so special, for sure.
Yeah, I was looking at the first 1998 Army-Navy game, right? That's a game that a pretty high scoring game for a service academy game. That game, it seemed like it was could have been a little bit back and forth, but for you to be named MVP of that game, I mean, that must be an honor that you really still hold to this day. I mean, because of just what that game means to not just your brothers, not just the country, just to college football, to be an MVP of that game. I mean, that must be an honor that you still hold pretty close to you, no doubt.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, actually, it's I'm sorry, right here.
Oh, wow.
That's the Philadelphia Sports Writers, MVP award. So it sits right behind me every day. Obviously, I'm very proud of that. I walked into that game. Johnny started that game, and I can remember going to bed that night, and I think Chad Jenkins and I were roommates that night. And I can remember going to bed and waking up the next day and telling Ed Warner and saying, Coach, we worked against a 4-down front all week long. I said, I think they're going to come out in an odd front and they're going to slant like Air Force did against us. Just FYI, I don't know why I think that. I dreamt it last night. I saw it. And sure as heck, we came out and they came out in an odd front, which is, they were a four-man front all year long. And, we struggled the first two series. And when they put me in that third series, it's like I already played the game. I've already seen it. And, I can remember the play call coming in. With the play call, depending on how they played defense, we had to make blocking changes and checks and things of that nature. And I can remember the call coming in and making the check out on the perimeter. And next thing you know, I hit the seam. We run a double option, and I hit the seam, and I'm 68 yards down the sideline, just because I made the check. And then came back the next series, and same thing. We drove the ball down the field, and were able to, make some adjustments and another touchdown later. And now we're up 14-10. And then,
we were able to just kind of deliver blow for blow with them back and forth, between, Craig Stucker and Ty Amy, busting off runs on them, and then, being able to, calling up the right place at the right time where we, ran a double pass with John Johnson and Bobby Williams. So it was something, like I said, I mean, I will never forget it for sure. I can pretty much replay every play in that game in my mind. Especially after that second run where I was supposed to be the holder on the extra point, and I was jumping around and kind of lost my breath jumping around, and I tapped myself out for the extra point, and we come in, and sure as heck we missed that extra point, and actually I said 14-10, but it made it 13-10 instead of 14-10. And I look back and I'm like, could I stayed in there for the extra point? And I definitely never lived that down. I didn't live it down for a long time, pulling myself out after that for the extra point. But it's something that'll never, that'll always be there. There's constant reminders, behind me for sure. I'm definitely proud of that, and proud of all my brothers that were able to fight through and send that senior class out with that victory against Navy. And, seeing them, I think the year before, CBS or whoever it was, they panned away from the alma mater, and to actually see the TV copy and actually see the cameras pan into on my brothers, as we're singing the alma mater after Navy, and seeing the pride and the hurt of being their last game and the love of the game in their eyes was tremendous for sure.
Yeah, I was going to ask you what it was like to be able to sing second, in a game like that, especially being that was your sophomore year, right? So I mean that's when and you came into the game, and we're ready to play, and that's not something that you might see at other schools, but at Army, in that particular game, right? Like you said, you're dreaming of this the night before. You're just probably chomping at the bit, ready to have your name called. And then when you get your name called, then you respond. And it's just almost like, I was going to ask you, like, what you ran back then, right? And now what you watch now with Army's offense, is it something that you can see that is there a lot of similarities there, or has that offense evolved to something a little bit different than what you ran?
There's a lot of similarities for sure. I've talked to, talked a little bit with Coach Davis and, what they do. But they are definitely driven with, by the fullback and by the quarterback. There's probably a little bit more quarterback design runs than we had. More, maybe you want to go back in time, maybe some single wing concepts, of the old, LSU and things of that nature, where it's quarterback power, looks like option, but it's more quarterback power, quarterback sweep, things of that nature. Trying to get that extra gap, trying to get that extra number, hat on a hat, extra blocker, and out leverage the defense. I think they do a great job of creating matchups and creating a numbers advantage and a positive look to run into and execute their offense. So when a team actually comes out and in something different than what they prepared for that week, you may see them struggle a little bit, but they're going to get to a point where they get that numbers advantage. And that's why right, wrong, or indifferent, that's why you see us play so many quarterbacks, because they're a ball carrier just like anybody else. And with that position, I mean, you're not always getting a 220-pound quarterback there. A Tim Tebow or anybody out there. I mean, all these guys out there that are just God gifted talent as far as size and things of that nature. You see guys that are 185, 190, 200 pounds, which you end up running the ball in college football at 200 pounds. You're going to take a beating and you're going to have some injuries, and that's why I think we ended up seeing 6 quarterbacks play last year.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, you got to be prepared to play. But that's why they've been able to be as successful as they've been. It's because they're not afraid. Everybody on that field is there to contribute. That's why I heard from my son that Coach Runkin, I mean, backs and linebackers are alive in practice. When you go and you practice, you're going. It's not. We're not thudding up and tapping off and tagging off and things of that nature, because you got to be physical, and which means that the next man up, the next person behind you has to be ready to play, and that's what you see, and that's what I've seen visiting and watching Coach Monken, run his practices and talking to coaches, and obviously I've got a little bit of a different relationship with them in the aspect of it that. Here I was a high school coach, and I'm talking to them about guys that I think will fit their fit the academy, fit West Point, and fit their philosophy. So I try to understand it a little bit differently and dive into it a little bit more. And when I'm up there visiting and I see the way they practice and I see the attention to detail that they put into it. It's apparent. That's why a John Radigan can go, 3 years and then start as a senior and then end up signing a free agent contract with the Seahawks. That's why Cole Christian, spent the number of years that he did in the system, was able to do what he did. That's why Eric this year, that's why, Slonka and those guys, I mean, because they put that time, they put that effort in, and they understand the work that's behind it. Because no matter if you're the starter, second, your third, you better be practicing and preparing the same way so that when your number is called, you're ready to go.
Yeah, I look at you talked. I mean, you might have mentioned Eric Smith there, and I guess when preseason practices start, and your son is Brett's still gonna play linebacker, right? He's gonna be a linebacker there, and to have experienced guy like Eric Smith to learn under your first year. I mean, wow, that's going to be real. I think that's going to definitely help, right, Brett, and his development. Just to having a guy like, just watching Eric play the way he plays and just knowing the leader he is. He's one of the 4 captains of this year's team. What do you think? That's definitely going to be an experience for Brett, a positive experience, no doubt for him, right?
Absolutely. But at the same time, and again, I mean, I think Eric's a great player. But. Like I told Brett before he went away, I said, you're not going there to be Eric's backup or to be Spencer Jones's backup. You're going there to start, and you go put the time and effort in and the work in to push those guys, and that's the only thing you're going there to do, and that's why I'm saying that you get a second, third, fourth string, first string, you're all preparing. If you're not preparing to be that starter, then you're going to find yourself so far down the depth chart that you don't have to worry about preparing, because you're not going to be getting any type of reps to be in that position. So go in there, be a great teammate, but go in there to push Eric, to push Spencer, to push whoever it is in front of you to take their job. And I think Brett understands that, and that's what makes him the type of player that he is he's willing to go in there and go put that time and effort in to go push the person in front of him, because I'm coming after your job. And that's how I approach it. I mean, Johnny and I were great friends, going through the academy, and great teammates. And there was never, ever any animosity between us, but I was going out there to always, take his job because I wanted to be on the field. Same thing with Chad behind me. I mean, I talked to Chad Jenkins about a couple of weeks ago. We're still great friends. I'm sure, every time he stepped on that field, he was trying to take my job, when I was starting as a junior, and he was a sophomore, so, there's never, ever any animosity, with that. Having a person like Eric in that position is great for Brett, and he understands that for sure. And I think probably Eric will tell you the same thing, that he wants Brett or whoever's, in that linebacker room to be trying to take his spot because it's only going to make them better as a team. And at the end of the day, it's going to lead to, week 1 win, week 2 win, week 3 win. Next thing you know, you got 8, 9, 10 wins on your belt, and you got a victory against Air Force, and you're lining up to play Navy to kick the crap out of them.
Yeah, absolutely. I just had a couple more questions to ask you. First, I wanted to ask you a little bit, go back to your playing career. I like to ask this to former players. Who you think is the best player you ever went up against, when you were at Army? Who you think is the best defensive player you might have faced?
Adalius Thomas, defensive end from Southern Miss. That Southern Miss team my junior year was pretty special. They had 3 or 4 guys make it to the NFL. The linebacker, I want to say his name was I can't think of his name, but they had a linebacker that ended up playing for the Jaguars. They had Adalius Thomas that played defense end for the Baltimore Ravens, and I can still remember Adalius Thomas coming down so hard on a read. And he hit Mike Wallace so hard, I thought Mike was dead. And, playing that game against Southern Miss down there, they call it the Rock. It was hot. It was humid in Mississippi. And those guys were just animals on that side of the ball. That was probably the best team that we played against as my class. And they didn't win probably as many games as they should have won. But Coach Jeff Bauer was the head coach down there, and he did some great things. I mean, they lined up and they played, Nebraska, and they played a bunch of, they weren't afraid to go play anybody, anybody anywhere. So they probably didn't have as many wins as they could have had. But that team was pretty good and pretty legit on the defensive side of the ball for sure.
Awesome. I was going to ask you about a couple guys that you coached in high school that are now going to be freshmen. They were Brett's teammates at Jesuit and out of Tampa. Spencer Williams and Raleigh Oxidine. What are Army fans? What can Army fans look for out of those two guys?
Those two guys are obviously great players. Coming out of a Jesuit, they were all captains on our team. 3 defensive captains. It was pretty cool to see our 3 defensive captains all decide to go to West Point, which speaks to the type of leaders they are and what we did and do at Jesuit High School for sure. But Raleigh is a guy that we used to call him, or we still call him Ox, because he's strong as an ox. He's been just, God has just gifted him with the strength, body strength, and since the time he showed up as a freshman in the weight room, moving weight, and his ability to move people on the football field, it was just tremendous. So I think he's got a very, very bright future in that aspect of it, being able to be a nasty interior defensive lineman for West Point. I might by no means in any type of Nostradamus or predicting anything. But, even if he was to move over to the offensive side of the ball at one of the interior offensive line positions, his strength, his lower body strength, his upper body strength, his leverage is just something that's going to give create havoc on the opposing defensive line or offensive line for sure down the road. Spencer was a young man that really had some trials and tribulations. I mean, it was always the leader in our secondary at the safety position. Very, very smart, intelligent player, athletic player that can make plays, and just for had some bad luck and some while making some plays. He ended up tearing his knee. While making an interception in high school, and then that coming back and rebounding, was able to get himself in position to get himself eligible for the prep school, and was a starter for the prep school. When that shortened season, that previous season they had, and then I think week 2 he ended up hurting his knee again. Don't know if it was an aspect of maybe trying to rush it back a little bit too soon, or just a bad luck. But he's somebody that brings some playmaking ability. Very, very smart individual in the back end, can get you all lined up and get you in position. Make sure all the checks in the secondary are in place, so you got the right fills and the right coverages across the board out there. So. I think all 3 of the guys have a great opportunity to contribute to Army football, this year and years to come.
Yeah, Army's done a really good job recruiting that Tampa area, right, Joe? I mean, they have David Hoyt coming in as an offensive lineman that was highly regarded. A guy who, Army fans are going to know really soon, probably on that offensive line. And they're still doing a great job. Even the class of the class that's going to be seniors, the 2022 class, they're recruiting hard and getting some commits out of that Tampa area too. So, man, it's been really great having you on. I just want to ask you just one last question about what it's going to be like now being in the stands. Like you said, you already kind of planned your itinerary for the Army home games. You got Western Kentucky as the home opener, I'm sure, penciled down there on September 11th. What do you think it's going to be like to get a chance to see your son maybe wear the black and gold this year?
It's going to be very, very emotional for sure. I mean, where Mom was very emotional on our day. I was more just kind of happy, smiling, giddy type deal. It's probably going to be a little bit more emotional sitting in the stands that weekend of September 11th, and hopefully he's taking the field. With the Black Knights on that home opener, that being the 20-year anniversary of my class, so there'll be a lot of my teammates that are there with me, getting it to experience that with me. So I'm hopeful. I'm optimistic that he's going to earn himself an opportunity to run out on that field. Dressing for that game and contributing for that game, and who knows, what more he's able to do. But it's gonna be emotional for sure. There's no doubt about it. I would imagine that there'll probably be a tear coming to my eye when I see him run out on the field for the first time for sure.
And hopefully having fans back for the first time at Michie Stadium since the 2019 season, that's going to be a part of that too. I mean, that's going to be it should be an electric atmosphere, I would think, that day. And man, it's been great having you, Joe. If you guys want to, if there's any you'd like to listen to this on audio, or you can, we're on Spotify, we're on Amazon, we're on Apple with these podcasts. We have a Black Knight Nation YouTube page, and I'm sure this is something that this interview is something that people are going to want to listen to, because Joe, you give the perspective of an Army football player, right? You've been through it before, and you gave the perspective of an Army football parent now, which is it's great. We've seen it with Connor Slumpka and Jim Slumpka in the recent past, right? When you have guys that can follow to join in the long gray line, that is like you say, he's not just a son anymore to you. Brett is a brother, and this has been great to hear your perspective, and we really appreciate you popping on tonight just to talk about it.
I appreciate you having me, South. I look forward to it, and go Army, beat Navy.